So companies are being forced to transform themselves, and that trend really is only accelerating as business models are striving to replace physical first with things like data centers to a cloud first approach. Businesses and employers are being asked to engage customers and partners across the globe. For many, that transformation begins with a move away from IaaS towards PaaS. I found this statistic, the first one here, around 90% of organisations using integrated IaaS and PaaS provided by 2022. Just thought it'd be interesting to see how many people are using PaaS services at the moment. If you are, do drop your comment in, it'd be good to see. In terms of the location for deploying your application, the cloud being the safest place for your business. Just to underpin, kind of the commitment to security that Microsoft had. Satya Nadella said last year that Microsoft will invest around $20 billion to advance security solutions over the next 5 years. This is a company that already invests $1 billion in security research and development, and also because of their unique position in the market, they've got a huge number of users of their SaaS services, things like Microsoft 365. Microsoft see and analyze around 9 trillion threat signals daily. They take these learnings and use that knowledge to bolster the defense of their products through what you may have seen as referred to as threat intelligence. There's lots of benefits, of moving to the cloud. I'm sure you're aware. Innovation, cost, compliance, and security are just some of them, and we'll touch on these later in this presentation, and also presentations later on in the day. So in terms of what's driving cloud adoption, infrastructure orientated drivers are something that we talk about, but today we're kind of focusing more on the application side of things. Being able to operate, with confidence around compliance and security and the threats that are out there, being able to drive savings through, moving your applications to public cloud, and also being able to, innovate on your applications, being able to prioritize new features, based on urgent needs of your customers, understanding what the critical capabilities that they need today. So harnessing PaaS services from Azure can allow us to optimize our costs, operate with confidence, and deliver new features faster. So looking at the first one there, some costs that don't get spoken about, it's not just the spend of the consumption, moving to a PaaS service, Azure will take onto Azure, Microsoft take care of the availability, the security, and the infrastructure management. This leaves you, free to focus your time and your resources on serving your customers, your users, your employees. By bringing your apps to Azure, it also enables you to seamlessly scale to handle unprecedented demand, not just up but down as well, adjusting for peaks in service, giving you the agility you require to navigate uncertain times. You can optimize your resources and spend by leveraging a platform that runs millions of applications and trillions of database queries every day. And then lastly, native integrations with things like Visual Studio and GitHub. Developers now have unparalleled freedom to make and ship changes and add the critical capabilities that your customers are asking for. So delving into these a little bit further, looking at optimizing costs. A modern cloud native approach on Azure allows you to reduce costs and drive the value of your teams and your applications. Allows your teams, to focus on what matters most, but offloading some of that management of your applications and your data to Azure. If we look at something like SQL, you can fine tune your apps to be powered by that evergreen SQL. It never needs to be patched, never needs to be updated, and it's always running the latest version. You can leverage the built-in intelligence within the platform, help you drive value that way. Things like application insights, a wealth of information for you to improve the experience of your users who are using your applications. Things like automatic tuning on databases. This is a fully managed intelligent performance service that uses built-in intelligence to continuously monitor queries executed on a database, and it automatically improves their performance. The longer you run that database with the automatic tuning on, the better it performs. And then finally, costs, true costs. You can get more cloud for less, really. Looking at things like Azure Hybrid Benefit can save you, costs around licensing. There are test and dev subscriptions out there that can be used, you know, and also just being intelligent about how you use the cloud. It's consumption based, you know, for test and dev. You know, can you just run it for 50 hours a week and switch it off when you're not using it and make savings that way? So operating confidently. In terms of the platform itself, you know, it really is built for enterprise. You're looking to run an application on an enterprise grade web hosting platform that serves around 2 million sites and processes 41 billion requests and 9 trillion SQL queries per day. Lots of big numbers there, you know, should give you the confidence that what you want to do, you can do within the Azure platform. The next thing's really talking about efficiency, you know, using existing skills in-house. You know, moving to Azure platform, there's obviously things to learn. But you know, things like microservices are using, you know, common code and frameworks such as .NET, Node.js, Python, Java, PHP. And on top of that, there is guidance and best practices out there for building your applications. You know, from the experience that Microsoft have had with, you know, thousands of enterprise engagements, all that documentation is out there for you to you know, take your own learnings from and help build your application. From a security point of view, you know, on top of the built-in security controls within sort of the web and the database, tools like Azure Defender for Cloud will help improve your overall security posture. It can help deliver threat protection, and then you've got guardrails with things like Azure Policy that allow you to measure yourself against an extensive set of compliance certifications. In terms of sort of standing up critical capabilities, you can make and ship changes faster with native integrations with Visual Studio, GitHub and the app service. You can create custom automated workflows to build, test, package and release and deploy to Azure, just following a push or pull request using GitHub Actions. You can publish code updates directly to the app service with Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code integration. And again, you can ensure governance from anywhere using Azure Policy to maintain visibility as to whether your code base or services are compromised. One of the big advantages of moving to Azure is you can extend what your applications are capable of. So easily connect into new data sources, bring insights from other apps and systems with hundreds of pre-built logic apps. You can connect back to on-prem, you know, using the API management service. And you can optimize your website for mobiles, you know, looking to reach more customers and reduce search site search time with things like interactive bots. And again, underpinning it always that security, giving you, allowing you to kind of innovate with confidence. There's built-in web security controls for network data, identity and login that allows you to scale without worrying or breaching customer confidence. You can empower your partners and employees to access the web app securely using things like Active Directory, B2B, business to business, and then you can expand that on using Azure AD business to consumer, you know, including allowing sort of your end consumers to use things like Facebook, Google, and others for authentication. You can increase that website security, you know, by employing multi-factor authentication. And you can store your secrets and credentials without any changes to your code using Key Vault. So next part, we're just going to jump into sort of looking at landing zones and some of the Microsoft frameworks that are there to help you. The first one we want to talk about is a cloud adoption framework. So the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework is a Microsoft strategy built on the experience of moving thousands of customers to the cloud. It compromises expert guidance, tools and best practice that will assist you in aligning the different phases of the cloud adoption lifecycle to ensure easy access to the right guidance at the right time. The framework consists of multiple phases. The first of all, we've got strategy. So why are you moving to the cloud? How does this align with the business strategy of the company? What's your technical strategy for the company? And how can adoption of Azure help you reach these goals? In terms of planning, you know, now you understand the motivations of the business, you can start that planning phase. Skill readiness is something that often gets overlooked. If you're being asked to take responsibility for a move to Azure, you know, you've got so much training out there. Azure Fundamentals is a great place to start, but there are literally hundreds of resources to help you gain and improve your knowledge of the Azure platform. And then finally, formulating your cloud adoption plan. how are you going to make a success of the move to Azure? Once all of that done and you're at the ready phase, this is where the landing zone sits. Building out your first landing zone prepares the ground for your workloads and applications. Best practice designing up front to help you start on the right foot. I'll talk a bit more about the landing zone on the next slide. And then this is the fun stuff, the adopt phase. So, are you going to migrate and modernize your workloads on Azure, or are you going to innovate, develop your next application directly on Azure to replace, what's currently sitting on-prem? Underpinning all of this, is governance and management. So you're looking to govern the environment and workloads to ensure that you're perhaps meeting industry standards or any regulatory requirements. And then management, thinking about that operations model for operating within a public cloud or even hybrid solutions. So what is an Azure landing zone? So a landing zone is an environment for hosting your workloads in Azure, pre-provisioned through code. The creation of the landing zone makes you, stop, think and plan for your Azure environment before you start deploying workloads directly to it. There's some different core areas that you need to concentrate on. I've highlighted some of these here. So starting with your networking services, connectivity to and from the cloud, understanding how things connect in the cloud and how users will gain access. So how are people going to reach your application? Is it going to be internet facing? Is it going to be another way that people are going to get access to it? Your identity. So thinking about, are you going to need to have Active Directory, authentication? Are you going to use Cloud Native Azure AD as a way of identifying your users? Or again, as we said, being able to extend that out with B2C to things like Google, Facebook, and so on. For governance, planning your structure, your naming conventions and Azure policies. Sitting down and having a well thought out design now will make Azure governance much easier later on. For security, look at taking a zero trust mindset into the cloud. Looking at those principles, assume breach, look at things like micro-segmentation of your application. Verify explicitly, look at things like conditional access and MFA when required. And then least privileged access, look at role-based authentication, just-in-time access, those kind of tools that are available to you within the platform. In terms of management, rethinking your IT management model for modern workloads that are running in the cloud. Can you easily report and provide visibility of all your assets that relate to your application? Can you apply automation to operations and manage compliance against standards? Can you minimize performance interruptions and recover quickly when they're needed? And can you customize operations to improve on performance and reliability? And then finally, always an important one, never to be ignored, is costs. How can I drive cost savings by moving to Azure? How can I then keep control of those costs going forward? Azure is a consumption-based platform. Keeping control of understanding your monthly spend is really going to be fundamental to the success of your application on there. The landing zone takes these and other factors into account. You really want to be looking to provide something that is scalable and modular. What services do you need today? Also being able to grow and adapt with the demands of your customers and your business. So the last framework we can look at is a well-architected framework. So this is focused on making your transition to Azure a success by laying a solid foundation for the workloads that you're looking to migrate. So cloud adoption is about getting you onto the cloud. This is about moving workloads onto there and making them a success. Microsoft put this well-architected framework out to the market as their set of guiding principles for the delivery of those cloud workloads. It isn't something new. People have been designing, with these kind of things in mind, but this really is, formalised, and it's important for your cloud-based applications. Workloads that are deployed in Azure and really take advantage of those cloud-native tools. The designs will become much more complicated. You've got distributed systems across lots of different Azure services. They're much more efficient and much more, cost effective, but it can become difficult to design and operate these. And this well-architected framework aims to help, with guiding principles and tools that are available. Some of those are built right to the platform. and it's to assist you with deploying your workloads in Azure. So in the center of the graphic on the right, we've got the well-architected framework, and that includes 5 pillars of architectural excellence: reliability, cost optimization, operational excellence, performance efficiency, and security. And then surrounding that, you've got things like the well-architected review, reviewing existing workloads on Azure against the well-architected framework, things like Azure Advisor, built into the platform. This provides recommendations based on those 5 pillars. You've got, tons of documentation out there. You've got partners that can provide support and services, all aligned to this well-architected framework. You've got reference architectures in things like the Architecture Center, and then design principles, helping you avoid anti-patterns that limit your growth, of your application on Azure. So just delving into those 5 pillars a little bit more, looking to manage costs and maximise the value delivered. We've touched on things like AHub, reserved instances. You can shut down servers, take advantage of those enterprise dev and test subscriptions, or if you are running IaaS services, moving to PaaS will generally deliver cost savings. Performance efficiency, so the ability of a system, being able to adapt to changes within load. You need to be doing things like setting performance goals based on metrics. How will you know that you're hitting these goals for performance efficiency? What does a healthy model look like, for your application? Once you've got that information, you can forecast future growth and requirements as they change. For reliability, your system or application should be able to recover from failures and continue to function. Design for failure, and embrace automation. Human error is still a huge factor in the failure of applications. Security, one of the most important aspects. Certainly today, most of my conversations I have, this is heavily featured. Security is important, understatement, but it helps provide assurances against things like a deliberate attacks everyone thinks of, and kind of abuse of your valuable data and systems that you've got. 3 key kind of considerations is, confidentiality, integrity and availability of that data. If you lose assurance, across any of those, it can negatively affect both your business operations and your revenue, and also your organisation's reputation. And finally, operation excellence. So defining your infrastructure so it can be automated, look to provision it through code. Releasing your software or deploying your applications using things like CI/CD and DevOps principles. Identifying problems when they happen. Are you aware of problems when they occur, or even before they occur? It's nothing worse than having a customer contact you to tell you something's down and you're not being aware of it. So next we're going to look at moving your applications to Azure and modernising on there. There's 3 kind of stages that we're going to focus on: the assessment phase, the actual migration phase, and then innovating once you're on there. So first, determining whether the app is compatible in its current state or it needs some adjustments. Secondly, bringing the application to Azure. You can do that by lift and shift. You can do it by just bringing your code, or you can containerize it and bring it over as a container. Lastly, set up monitoring and automating deployments for further releases, as well as pushing in sort of innovation and new capabilities for enhanced user experience. So, in terms of that assessment phase, there's some tools that are out there that are available to you. The Azure App Service Assessment Tool is a really simple, easy to use tool, and it helps you assess your public facing applications. To start with, all you need to do is provide just the URL of a website to get a full report of all the technologies that are detected within that application and whether they're supported within the Azure App Service. Moving into something a bit more in depth, Cloud Pilot scans the application source code and uses configuration data to provide a detailed report of code level changes to modernise your applications for the cloud. This will give you 3 scenarios to migrate or transform your application. So looking at a move from on-prem IaaS to virtual machines, or IaaS within Azure, move towards the app service, or move towards containers with AKS. It will give you an estimated amount of effort it will take to make that migration to your chosen path. And you can also drill into the changes and recommendations to identify the work to be carried out. It'll highlight areas of code that will not simply move or present perhaps a security breach or something that is outside of best practice. And this is a tool that's currently in sort of pre-release. It was in preview last year. It's slowly moving towards a full release and general availability. So this is to help developers upgrade their .NET, older .NET code bases up to .NET 6. So it's a command line tool. It can be run on different kinds of .NET framework applications, and it's designed to try and assist you with upgrading. If you've got one of those older .NET applications, in most cases the app will require some additional effort to complete the migration and get it moved across. And this tool essentially installs analyzers that can help identify those blockers and assist with completing the migration. It will give you recommendations and fixes for your project files. It will look at source code to help you kind of incrementally make those changes to sort of help you upgrade at your own pace. There's multiple project types it works with, including ASP.NET, MVC, web apps, Windows Forms, and desktop apps. So once you've done that preparatory work and everything's ready for migration, you can bring your web application to Azure using 3 different paths. So you can automate the process with the App Service Migration Assistant for .NET and PHP apps. You can redeploy your existing code by setting up a CI/CD pipeline with the app service as a destination for your deployments, or you can containerize your existing application and deploy it to the app service. In the following slides, we'll focus on the main benefits that Azure App Service offers for each of these paths. So the App Migration Service tool provides an automatic path to migrate .NET and PHP apps into Azure. After the initial assessment, the customers need to download a tool, and that will perform some readiness checks by running on the current host of the application. It will offer some recommendations for remediation steps prior to the migration if needed. After that, the tool will guide the migration through a step-by-step wizard and will automatically migrate you. For customers that want to redeploy their existing code base themselves, the app service offers some flexibility on the choice of technologies to use for development and deployment. So I won't go through them all there, but you can see that it supports the most common programming languages, the development tools that you can use, and even source code repositories, CI/CD tools and engines. You really have got the freedom to use existing tools that you're probably already using today to move to bring your code and move it to the app service. For more effective deployment experience, the app service provides several deployment slots for the same site, so enabling customers to have different environments for production, staging, and testing, with a specific deployment pipeline for each of them. And then, finally bringing your container. So for containerized web applications, App Service supports both Windows and Linux containers, fully integrated with Container Registry Service for deployments such as Docker Hub and Azure Container Registry. Customers can still enjoy the rest of the benefits of this fully managed platform when deploying their containers, with built-in DevOps, integration with dev tools, intelligent monitoring by default, and multiple deployment slots. So we've really focused in on the application layer to Azure, but every application has a data component. To make things easier to migrate the database of the application to Azure, there is an Azure Database Migration Service, which, similar to the App Service Migration Assistant tool, will enable the move of SQL, MySQL, and PostgreSQL databases to their respective managed service within Azure. DMA, as it's known, will look at blockers and dependencies and identify configuration changes that need to be made to allow the smooth migration to Azure database PaaS services. So, once we've migrated, essentially we've got, our innovate phase. You understand the migration path that you're going to take, the destination of where it will be within Azure, and what platforms you can use, what platform tools you can use to get there. Once there, looking at things like more insightful monitoring. I've already mentioned earlier, intelligent and proactive analytics you get from Azure Monitor and application insights. You can start to look to create more effective deployments, leveraging deployment pipelines with GitHub and Azure DevOps. You may want to incorporate artificial intelligence capabilities into your applications by using pre-built services such as cognitive services and the bot service. Incorporating more natural and innovative ways to engage with your application, for your users to engage with your application through conversational chatbots, which is something we've done here recently for a customer. Other cognitive services such as real-time translation or face recognition may be something you want to leverage for one of your particular applications. And then last but not least, you can quickly incorporate new functionality by using serverless technologies, expanding the capabilities of your existing application with a very productive event-driven approach. You can use Azure Functions and Logic Apps. Existing applications can then integrate with hundreds of services with low code or no code experience for faster and simpler innovation. There are quite literally hundreds of pre-built Logic Apps out there that you can incorporate into your application or service. So in terms of next steps, identifying those applications. If you need help, we've helped a number of customers and we can offer a range of solutions and assessments to help you get started.